Good morning, Matt. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all today. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to do a meditation. I mentioned this on Sunday. On the weekend course, we've been looking at the 8 worldly dharmas. And we're going to do a meditation that comes from Lama Zopa Rinpoche's book, How to Practice Dharma, about working with praise and criticism. So this is one of the pair of the 8 worldly dharmas. So we're going to spend some time with that. So let's go ahead and begin as we usually do with a few minutes just to sort of focus the mind, calm the mind a bit. And you can use the breath as a meditation object for these first few minutes. Working with the breath, whatever way suits your mind. If you need a suggestion, again, I usually suggest working with the area around the nostrils where we feel the sensation of the air as we breathe in and out. But making the breath your meditation object, try to stay present with it as best as you can. Whenever you see that the mind's wandered away, gently guide the mind back to the breath. So I'll ring the bell to begin the meditation period. I'll come in a few minutes, set our motivation, and then do this meditation on praise and criticism. So now let's set our motivation for doing a meditation today. And recall that if we don't begin to work with these ways that we're attached to the pleasures of this life, these worldly dharmas, we're never going to genuinely practice the Buddha's teachings. We have to begin to see how these are operative in our lives and begin to address that mind of desire, craving, that wishes to have these various objects, to not have the opposite of them. So we're going to do this meditation today with that motivation of being able to practice the Dharma more sincerely, so that we can achieve the goals that the Buddha says we all have the ability to achieve, especially the goal of complete enlightenment, the state where we will be able to help all beings to be free from suffering and to find true happiness. So bring that intention to doing this meditation today. So we're going to work with this pair of praise and criticism. And Rinpoche advises that we can learn a lot about our minds by looking at the way that we feel very pleased when somebody praises us, how we become very depressed, maybe even angry when somebody criticizes us. And even if we think that the praise might not be justified or the criticism not justified, we still see how our minds go out of control when we hear these words. Let's begin by thinking of a compliment or some praise that you've recently received. And it might have been spoken words, it might have been an email, it might have been a text message, however it was, a card that somebody sent you. But don't worry about whether you feel you deserve the praise or not. Just concentrate on the way that your mind reacted to it. Were you genuinely pleased to receive the praise without any exaggeration of the mind? Or did your mind immediately become attached to it? And explore how much you yourself, needed that praise or reacted to that praise. What ways did the mind become inflated on the basis of hearing those words? So let's do a deeper investigation to see if we do have some of that attachment to praise. Well, where is it coming from? And let's use the example of spoken words. And imagine that somebody has praised you by saying, "You are so good," in regard to whatever it is, whatever quality you feel that they would be praising you on the basis of. Immediately when you hear those words, "You are so good," think about how your mind wraps itself around that sentence and you feel very happy. But let's take a look. Where is the real happiness in those four words? They're really just sounds that are hitting your ears. If they were a true source of happiness, then every time that you heard those words, you'd be as happy. If there was some sort of absolute existence in that sentence in terms of those words, then just saying, "You are so good" to yourself would have exactly the same effect. But does it? So take a look at those words initially just to see, is there something within them, you are so good, that is behind that mind of feeling elated when we're praised? Say them to yourself. And does it have the same effect? And Rinpoche says, maybe this could be your mantra. You could repeat it to yourself over and over, even counting them on your mala, your rosary. You are so good. You are so good. You are so good. Or you could record it and play it back to yourself all day, every day. And if those words had some absolute ability to do so, they would make you the happiest person in the world. Hearing you are so good every day, constantly, every moment of every day, you would be the happiest person. But of course, it's not like that, is it? Another example might be to train a parrot to say, you are so good, so that you'd hear it constantly. That bird would just keep saying, you are so good, you are so good, you are so good. Does it make you happier to hear those words repeatedly? And then we can take each word of those four and see whether there's sort of happiness in each of the words. Is there some intrinsic happiness in you, in are? Is there happiness in the word so? Is there happiness in the word good? Now, can we find some sort of intrinsic happiness within those words individually? But yet when we string them together into you are so good, then we become attached to those words. We exaggerate the meaning of those words in our own minds, think that they're a true source of happiness. But there's no happiness within each individual word. So why is there happiness in the whole sentence? So as we examine these four words, you are so good, we begin to see that the happiness doesn't come from the words themselves. The words themselves are empty sounds. The meaning comes from your own mind. And of course, we have the tendency to exaggerate that meaning, to become attached to that meaning, to crave to hear praise, to want people to use those words in referring to us. You are so good. There's nothing from the side of those words that produces happiness. It's all coming from our own minds, and then our tendency to exaggerate, to crave those words. So see if you can come to that conclusion and see what the relevance of that conclusion is. To begin to see that we have to work on our own minds in relation to how these objects come into our experience, especially praise. Begin to reduce what we're doing as a tendency to exaggerate that, to cling to those words. And then, of course, to get depressed when we hear the opposite. So let's go on to work with the opposite. Imagine now that somebody says, you are no good. So all they've done is they've changed one letter in that string of words. Instead of so, it's now no. Imagine that you're hearing those words from somebody. You are no good. Again, what feelings come up when you hear those? Can you begin to see the exaggeration that you are doing from your own side on the basis of hearing those words, thinking that they're a true source of discontent, of unhappiness. And then, of course, exaggerating that, having a strong aversion to hearing those words, feeling depressed when you hear those words. You can examine how you react to those 4 words. You are no good. And here, as before, we can do various experiments to think of what it's like to say those words to ourselves. Does it have the same effect if we tell ourselves, you are no good, versus when we hear that from someone else? No doubt it's very different. Moreover, if we were to put that on a tape recorder and play that all day, would it really make us feel worse about ourselves? Can we begin to see the nature of this simply being sounds, being words, that it's us who put the meaning into those words? Imagine hearing, you are no good, you are no good, you are no good. Can experiment with this over the next minute or two just to see if, once more, is there something from the side of the words that is unpleasant, that is negative, or is it our mind that is interpreting it that way? And then, as before, we can take a look at the individual words. Well, we already looked at you, are, and good. We didn't find any inherent happiness in there. This time, can we find any inherent unhappiness in there? Something unpleasant about those 3 words? But moreover, now we've got this word no instead of so. Is there something about the S sound that is positive, that produces happiness? Something about the N sound that produces unhappiness? Going from so to no. Can we find something in those four words, you are no good, that is true unhappiness, that exists from the side of those words? Again, just spend a minute or so examining that. So through examining both praise and criticism in this way, we should hopefully arrive at a place where we see sort of the emptiness of these words. And when we see that, our feelings should change. There's no problems in our minds, no confusion when suddenly we see that there's nothing from the side of these words that is inherent happiness or pleasure, nothing from the side of the words that is inherent displeasure or unhappiness. All of a sudden, by checking like this, Rinpoche says your attachment or aversion diminishes and your mind becomes much more relaxed and happier than before. The wrong conception that held the truth to be in that group of sounds simply vanishes. And with it, the attachment or aversion you felt because of those words. Just spend a moment reflecting on the fact that you can't find that true happiness or true unhappiness in those words, and to try to maintain a peaceful mind, regardless of what we are hearing, praise or criticism. In this way, we become our own therapist. We take care of our own minds, regardless of what is happening on the outside. Okay. And let's dedicate the positive potential we've created through doing this examination of praise and criticism so that we can eventually be free of the minds of attachment, aversion, anger, as well as the root of ignorance. And in that state of freedom and peace, be able to benefit others to help them to attain that as well. And let's dedicate also for the good health and long lives of our precious teachers so that we can continue to benefit from their presence in this world, as well as others benefiting from them. And then lastly, let's dedicate for any beings that we're holding in our hearts right now, might be going through difficult times, challenges, obstacles, who are ill, who are dying, or who have died recently, and dedicate this positive potential for their welfare so they can be free from suffering and find all the causes of true happiness and peace. And may all beings find true happiness and peace through what we've done here today. Wonderful. Thank you all so much, everyone. Have a very good day, and I will see you all again soon. Be well.